Morning, good afternoon, whatever time it is for you. Welcome to the second episode of the Preston Kelly Show. Uh, this episode, we are going to be covering college football. College football just came off of this first week, this past weekend, and it was a very eventful weekend surrounding college football. A lot of good games, a lot of disappointment games for a bunch of teams, and we're going to cover it. We're going to cover all the bright spots, all the primetime games, and everything. I'm not going to take too much time of an intro. We're going to hop right into the first game, and the first game we're going to talk about is uh, what happened with UNC last night. If you don't know, if you haven't heard me say already, I am a diehard North Carolina fan. Born and raised, love UNC sports. And Bill Belichick made his debut as the head coach last night for the Tar Heels. This whole build towards this season has been surrounded by him. He got hired back in January, and we have been building all the way up until this moment. And there were a bunch. I mean, it was a whole different feel than I've ever felt before. The pregame, it was hyped. The fans were hyped. There were a bunch of stars there, and guys like Michael Jordan was there, Julius Peppers was there, Randy Moss, like Mia Hamm. There were a bunch of people at that game last night to see Bill Belichick debut as the head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels. And they brought in 70 new players. 70 through the transfer portal and high school recruits. Like it was a different team feel. And we get to last night and they just fall flat on their face. We lost 48-14. 8-14. If you're a UNC fan, I can assure you, you're feeling the exact same way that I am. And I am now giving them the new name, UNC, of University of Never Changes, because that has just been the tall tale of Carolina football. We always, build up to a season to where we think, man, we've really got a chance this year. We got a shot to be a solid football team. And, it's just, we can't get it done. And I know people are, some people might say, hey, it's week one, calm down. Yeah, but we went out there and got our teeth kicked in. That was embarrassing. It was primetime television, Monday Night Football, 8:00. The game, there was so much hype surrounding Bill Belichick debuting as this new head coach. And you just go out there and you get blown out like that. And that's just not a good look. I truly can't take away a single positive from last night. Sure, if you lose, you're hoping that there's at least something that you can take away, oh man, okay, at least that's a positive. We can say, okay, that's what we're going to build on for the rest of the season, the rest of the way. A lot of football left. And you know what? Maybe that was the best thing to happen for us, to go out there and get our butts kicked and lose the way that we did. And hopefully it helps us the rest of the season. Maybe it fires up them boys a little bit. We learn something about this new team and we're able to spark it for the rest of the way. And, obviously being not the best team in all of college football, but, build off of it and, get back on track to at least some form of positivity. And this is also a very, very young team. There's not a whole lot of seniors on this team, bunch of new high school recruits, a lot of young transfers from different schools. But man, it just did not look good last night. There is no direction that you can go but up at this point, to get embarrassed like that. And you got Charlotte next week. So hopefully you can take that game as a bounce back game. Let's get back on our feet. Let's, get back on the right track, get a little bit of momentum going for this team. But man, the first drive, they got me. I was like, man, this team, okay, that's a different feel. Both sides of the football. Offense went down, 84 yards, touchdown, boom, right out of the gate. And then defense, 3 and out. I'm like, okay, this is good. This is great. But literally, that was it. That was it. After that, TCU just on another level just whooped us. And I think Desmond Howard said it great on the pregame show, to where he said, yeah, they're probably feeling a little bit disrespected. Yeah, for sure. you're surrounded this game like you're the afterthought. This whole game surrounded just around Bill Belichick making his debut as a head coach for North Carolina. Like TCU is not the afterthought or is not the thought at all of this game. So I'm sure they felt very disrespected, and that's why they played the way that they did. And don't forget too, TCU played Deion Sanders in Deion Sanders' first game as a college coach when he went to Colorado. And, they lost by 3. Colorado won that game. It was 45-42. They were talking about it last night. So I'm sure, like, they are used to this. They're, some of that coaching staff, and they were like, okay, we now understand what the hype is like to get a big predominant figure in to become the head coach of a college team. Let's take what we learned here, adapt it here, and just use it to our advantage. And they did, and they came out swinging, and they did not stop. They did not take the foot off the gas at all. And they, handed us a very embarrassing first loss of the season. So the question I think now is, the main thing looking at the quarterback, Gio Lopez got the start last night for Carolina. Does he start after this? He got benched in the third quarter for Max Johnson, and Max Johnson came in and played great. He was 9-11 for passing, 103 yards and a touchdown. I mean, he came in and balled out. Sure, it was, nowhere near a close game at that point that Max came in, but he still came in and he played his butt off. So realistically, I probably think that, they're going to sit Gio and Max Johnson's going to get the start next week for UNC. Maybe he can, play better. If you don't know, if you don't remember Max Johnson last year, he transferred to us last year. He got the start against Minnesota when we played Minnesota last year, and he had a very, very bad leg injury that costed him all of last season. So it's kind of a feel-good story to see him come and play well, even though like we were getting our butts kicked last night. So I'm hoping, if he does take over as a starter at this point, he can take this team and he can run off with it and, help the offense out a little bit. But we got to pass the football. Like that team, that they didn't want to pass a lot. It seemed like they were relying a lot on the run game, which I'm okay with if it's working, but it wasn't working for the most part. I was hoping that we were going to go back to some of our RPO stuff. Gio's a very good RPO guy. He can also run the football, and he didn't run a lot, up to that point. We were focusing very much on our running backs, and it wasn't working. So I don't know what exactly the thought process is. I'm hoping they adapt to that, whether it's Gio getting the start next week. If it's Max, I hope they throw the football a little bit more because, Max is a pretty good passer. I still want to run the football, obviously, utilize our running backs that we have with Caleb Hood, who got a touchdown last night on the opening drive, and Elijah Hall, who's the transfer from Michigan. So I'm hoping that they can just figure something out on the offense for that reasons. But the defense just could not tackle last night at all. I don't know what happened, but they just, I think maybe they got, gassed also too, as much as they were out there, because the offense after that first drive was it was 3 and out. And then the defense just had no time to recover. So I'm sure that played a role, but the defense couldn't tackle. They couldn't get any stops for us. And they just, TCU just kept piling on. So the moral of the story is there's just a bunch to work on here when it comes to UNC and looking forward to the future. So I'm hoping they figure it out this week and we can at least get somewhat of some positives this week when we go play Charlotte. That's enough for that game that I'm going to talk about before I lose my mind. The second game I want to talk about is the Sunday night game, Miami versus Notre Dame. This was my favorite game of the weekend to watch. This was such a good game. And I think a lot of talk coming into the game was like, okay, what's Carson Beck going to look like? I think a lot of people are just like, he's either going to do really, really good or he's going to do horrible. And the man played his butt off. He played great. Went out there and, I think proved some people wrong and, told some people, hey, I'm still Carson Beck and I can still play great football. Like I went to, you might have counted me out when I was at Georgia, but hey, I'm here now. I'm here at Miami. This is my team now. This is, we're going to start rolling. And they went out there and they beat Notre Dame. It was a very close game, came right down to the final minute of the game. They won 27-24. But a lot of positives, I think, from both sides that you can get from this. Like Miami, I already said Carson Beck, played great. Everyone else looked very, very well. Um, but CJ Daniels had one of the best catches that I've ever seen in a while in the rain too. That kind of Odell like one-handed catch that he had. Carson Beck throwing that pass off of his back foot. It was a very, very impressive pass, even more impressive catch. The offense looked great for Miami. I think the defense played pretty well too. For the Notre Dame side, you could very much see that they are still running that kind of similar offense with CJ Carr that they did with Riley Leonard. CJ Carr, he had a lot of uh, running time last night. He carried the football himself a lot, and Notre Dame's focusing a lot on the run. So I don't think we're going to expect much different from Notre Dame when it comes to the type of offense that they're going to run. Again, they're running that exact. They seem to be running that exact same offense that they did last year with Riley Leonard that they're running this year with CJ Carr. And it paid off for them last year. Made the national championship. They might have lost, but they still made the national championship. So we'll see how well CJ Carr is able to adapt to this offense compared to how Riley Leonard ran it last night. We'll see where Notre Dame ends up. Even though they lost, I still think that they should feel pretty good about themselves, considering they did play. They gave Miami a run for their money, and they played a great game. They didn't stop. They didn't quit. Like I said, it came down to the last minute, and that's the best. That's where the best college games come from, right there, in that aspect. But looking forward to see what both teams are able to do the rest of the way. Miami obviously is an ACC threat, and then we'll see what Notre Dame's able to do with the rest of their schedule. So, the next game, I'm going to talk about the LSU game against Clemson. This happened Saturday night. LSU went down to Death Valley and they beat Clemson. It was 17-7. This was a very, very defensive heavy game. LSU's defense kept K. Klubnik in check, man. They kept that boy in check. Like they made him struggle a lot, I think. And that's why, and that fueled that offense. I think Nussmeier, obviously not what he looked pretty good, not the best game by any means, but like I said, both defenses looked great. This was a very defensive heavy game, which is okay. I think a lot of people maybe complain about that sometimes because they want to see offense, but you gotta feel very good if you're either Brian Kelly or Dabo Sweeney, feeling about how your defense played those games, and that's a very positive look for the future. Obviously, still ironing out some stuff both sides from the offense and stuff. I think those offenses those are two of the best offenses in all of college football. They're going to be fine. You're just asking two of the best teams to go up against each other in one of the hardest places to play in Death Valley, and good for LSU marching out to get that win. And one guy that's feeling great about that win is Brian Kelly. I think they showed his record against, I want to say it was top 10, AP top 10 teams, and he was like 3-10. So, you know, Brian Kelly's a great coach. But always the talk has been like he can't win the big games. Like when it comes down to it, he just can't win them. And last night, or not last night, excuse me, Saturday night, he went down the Death Valley and man, he coached his tail off, and got LSU and helped LSU with that game a lot, helped them beat the Tigers, and they're off to a great start. That's a good feel for LSU. Shout out Lee Corso in general for getting that game right. He was the only one that picked LSU and got all of his games right too. So I think Clemson's fine. People are going to ask, what does this look like for them? They're still going to be a great football team. Again, they're playing the number 9 team in the country. Like it's going to be a rough game. But again, they're going to be fine. They're going to come out next week and they're going to look like the same old Clemson. I think Kate Klubnik is okay. That game isn't going to affect him a little bit. There should be no talk about him, being a bad quarterback now. Like Clemson's going to be okay. They're still going to be a great football team, but they just got beat. As simple as that. Like the Clemson not Clemson. LSU came to Clemson ready to play football, and that's why hats off to LSU. But both teams are going to be fine. Both teams are definitely still in it for Clemson's definitely still in the playoff wise. Like they're going to be able to just from this point build off of that loss. It's probably I'm no for 100%. It's going to light a fire under Dabo and the rest of that team, and they're going to be like, all right, got our one loss out of the way, let's go. March forward now, and they're going to be a tough team to beat for all the rest of the season. Like this is a really, really good Clemson team. LSU, that's a lot of momentum to gain off of the first week. Obviously, playing in the SEC, you take those big momentum games whenever you can get it. They're going to have a lot of tough opponents this year, and playing down in the SEC, so they're going to happily take that first win. They're probably going to re-rank anywhere in the top 5 now, I'd assume, for this week. Like it's going to, they definitely very much like that win is going to build them up a lot. And, if you're one of these teams that have to play LSU, like it's not going to be an easy game at all. So don't expect it. Great defense. That offense is just going to get better as the season goes on. So I'm really excited to watch LSU this year. I'm really excited to watch Clemson this year. They come and play UNC here in a couple of weeks at Kenan Stadium. Let's just pray that UNC doesn't look like they did last night whenever it comes to playing Clemson here in a few weeks. But again, Clemson's going to be fine. LSU is looking strong. Corso picked them to be the national champions this year, so we'll see. They're definitely off to a great start. But for the next game that I want to talk about is, and this will be the last college game that I'll talk about before I jump into some QB stuff, is the Ohio State game against Texas. Ohio State beat Texas 14-7. Another big-time defensive game. Now, this was the first legitimate, I say legitimate, he's had some starts before, but this was the first, like, real start for Arch Manning to where this was his football team now that he's taking over. And there's going to be a lot of mixed opinions when it comes to Arch, as in, is he good enough? Does he have what it takes to be the starter for this Texas team? Like there was a lot of pressure on Arch for this game. And I mean, you're asking him to make his first real start as a starter in college football for this Texas team where it's under him at Ohio State, who are the defending national champions, and in a stadium that's extremely tough to play at. Don't get me started on the pressure with having Manning as your last name. Your uncles are 2 of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play in the NFL, play football. That's a lot of pressure. So that's why I'm not going to give too much crap on Arch for, maybe not playing as good as a lot of people hoped he would. But, I think Arch is going to be fine. There is no reason to give him any crap. Obviously, it didn't look great. His stat line was he was 17 of 30, had 170 yards passing, had a touchdown, had an interception. I mean, like I said, I think Arch is going to be fine. You just hope that he doesn't look like that the rest of the way. Hoping next week that he can get a get-back game and kind of, that they can just adjust anything that they need to with Arch. And, that Texas team Texas is going to be fine. I think, I don't think they should have any reason to be ranked number 1. I think that was a little bit insane to go ahead and rank them 1 out of the gates. I still think that they're still a very, very good football team. Their defense played a great game. Ohio State's offense in check, but the offense, I think it'll get rolling here at some point. That's just this is something that tends to happen. Week 1 happens a lot where the offenses don't kind of start hot yet, kind of takes them a minute to kind of get ramped up and warmed up and ready to go for the season. So I think, like I said, both sides are going to be fine. Because, I mean, you look at Ohio State's side of the offense, Julian Sand made his first start for Ohio State, and, I mean, he was only 13 to 20 for 126 and a touchdown. So it's not like he went off by any means either, but, they did enough to get the win. And like I said, both defenses, played their butts off and kept this a really, really tight game up until the end. And Texas had a shot. They had a shot. They scored a touchdown late. They got Ohio State to get the ball back with some time left in the game, and they had a shot, but they just, like I said, this defense held strong for Ohio State and kept Texas in check. And Ohio State, man, getting off to a hot start. Coming off of a national championship run that they had this year. They come in week 1, beat the number 1 team in Texas. I think they play like Grambling next week, and they deserve a Grambling game based on the last like 7 opponents that they have, dating all the way back to the college football playoff. So, Ohio State, they're going to be they're going to be tough again this year. Like, think I would assume they would get the 1 spot. I mean, Penn State, maybe they beat the crap out of Nevada. But that's going to be 1 and 2 when it comes down to the AP poll, Ohio State and Penn State. So, great way to start off the year for Ohio State. That's a lot of confidence, again, moving forward, that they will, again, gladly take. And you gotta be excited, again, for this year if it's going to be if you're an Ohio State fan. Because, yes, you got your national championship with Ryan Day last year. But, hey, that was last year. I know all these Ohio State fans are ready to go right back and make another run. They want another title. And right now they have their eyes dead set on doing just that, beating the number 1 team right out of the gate. But that's it for games. I want to go into some QB stuff, give some QB shout-outs for maybe some quarterbacks that maybe you did or didn't see. One I know for sure that a lot of people will see. And I want to go ahead and talk about him out of the gate. Tommy Castellanos for FSU. FSU beat Alabama 31-17, and they played that game at Florida State. I have been singing Tommy's praises since he was at Boston College last year. I got to see him obviously play a good bit, considering obviously I'm a Carolina fan. So seeing him play in the SEC kind of gave me or ACC gave me a good idea of how he played. And I'm a big fan of Tommy Castellanos. And I was a little skeptical whenever he transferred to Florida State, considering how they did last year, only winning 2 football games. And I was like, okay, like, how is this going to look for FSU this year? And sure enough, they just erase any doubt that, they are anything close to what they were last year and come out and beat the number 8 team in Alabama. Now, I think a lot of conversation is going to be like, okay, is Alabama just bad this year? Or is FSU good? I think it's a little bit of both, if I'm being completely honest. And I'll get into a little bit of depth about Alabama. Tommy Castellanos, it was also a rainy game. Tommy was great in the air and on his he can run the football too. He only threw 152 yards passing, didn't have any passing touchdowns, but he carried the ball 16 times at 78 yards rushing and had a touchdown. So he definitely, established that this is that FSU's back and they're ready to play football this year. They're ready to get back to how they were a couple years ago and play some competitive football, and erase all that stuff from last year, all that negative stuff that happened last year. And I don't like FSU by any means, so it kind of hurts a little bit to see him do good. But I'm happy for Tommy Castellanos that he's able to now get a little bit of this shine and praise that I knew that he was going to get, because I knew that he was a great quarterback. And now he gets to show that playing for FSU. The next quarterback I want to talk about is Joey Aguilar. He's the new quarterback at Tennessee. He's a transfer. I believe he came from. Yeah, I forget it off the top of my head. It might have been LSU, or not LSU. Geez, UCLA. I think it was a California team. I'm not sure. I saw Joey Aguilar play at App State. I went to an App State game few years back and got to see him play, and he's a great quarterback. I knew he was a great quarterback. I knew that he was probably going to end up transferring at some point, and sure enough he did, and now he is the starter for this Tennessee team. And a lot of people probably didn't get to see him play because obviously they played at the same time that Ohio State and Texas did. So he kind of he didn't get to see all the eyeballs weren't necessarily on him as much. But sure enough, he came in there. His stat line looked like he was 16 of 28 passing wise, and he threw 3 touchdowns. And they beat Syracuse. And I believe they played that game in Atlanta. Maybe it was an Aflac kickoff game, and they beat Syracuse. What was the score? I just wrote it down. 45-26. So Tennessee offense looked great. Joey Aguilar I said, I knew that he could play great football. Obviously seeing him in person, and now he's kind of displaying that to all the fans of college football and Tennessee, that taking over this Tennessee team and are going to do big things. We'll see where they are able to go from here. Playing the SEC is not easy by no means. So best of luck to Joey Aguilar, but I had to give him a shout out just because I knew that probably a lot of people didn't get to see him play because everybody was watching that Ohio State and Texas game. The final quarterback shout out I'm going to give, I don't think a lot of people saw this game because it was a late game if you live on the East Coast. And that's Devin Dampier. Now you're probably sitting there wondering, a lot of people are like, okay, who is that? The Utah quarterback, Devin Dampier. Utah beat UCLA by a score of 43-10. Big thing coming into this game was Nico. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name, but Nico, the quarterback last year from Tennessee, he transferred over to UCLA. They faced Utah in their first game, and Nico looked horrible. And then Devin Dampier, he played great. I'm a big fan of him now. I watched the first half. By the time it was halftime, it was like midnight, so I was out by then. But the first half, he looked great. The next one, I woke up just to see how he did. And his final stat line, he was 21 of 25 for passing. He had 206 yards passing, had 2 touchdowns, and then he can run the football. He's a great runner. He had 87 yards running, and a rush TD. So he came out and played great. Now, historically, UCLA isn't the best football team by any means. But still, UCLA typically is tough for people to play, and they build this team now around Nico, who's the quarterback of that team. And Utah said, we're going to come in here and establish ourselves. And Dampier played great, and I'm a big fan of his. I can't wait. I'm going to be watching Utah a lot this year just to see him play because I'm a big fan of how he runs and throws the football and plays. So I'm going to be excited to watch Utah games this year. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I'm excited to see where this Utah team goes this season. So bright things to come from them. I do also want to talk a little bit about Nico just because of how bad he did end up playing. He was 11 for 22 passing, had a touchdown and intercepted, and had 47 rush yards. So I guess not horrible by any means, but man, it's kind of the same thing talking about UNC. They looked last night, and now we look at UCLA, and they just fell flat with Nico, who's supposed to be a big star. And I don't think Nico's probably going to be fine too in that same area with Arch. But man, you always want to come out week 1 and kind of show a lot of positives, and UCLA did not do that at all. So hopefully they can fix it. They can figure some things out, and maybe next week they'll look better. But Nico did not have a great game by any means, and Utah just came in there and stomped all over them, and it was great for Utah. But that pretty much kind of just wraps it up for college stuff. We'll take a quick second to talk about the NFL games and stuff. This is a quicker episode, because it's a school day, and I'm recording this in the time that I have kind of a nice window to stop and record this. And I know a lot of people don't like long podcasts and stuff, so I'm kind of just speed running this and kind of just talking about the main stuff and what I know people want to hear about and stuff. But so that's why it's a little bit quicker. But the plan is, yes, I'm going to probably try and do college episodes on Wednesdays and then NFL episodes later in the week maybe on typical Fridays and stuff like that. But we'll see. But we'll always look on these college episodes. We'll pay attention to the Thursday night games just because we won't be able to cover those in the Friday episodes. But this week, we're lucky enough to get 2 games before Sunday. We get Thursday night game, which will be the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles, and then the Friday night game, which is being played in Brazil between the Chiefs and the Chargers. So I'm just going to give a little bit of a rundown, things that I know off the top of my head for these 2 games, and then I'm going to give predictions for both of those games. So that's just what we're going to do real fast. So first, we'll talk about the Thursday game. I don't know off the top of my head where this game's being played. I want to say it's Philly. But this is big divisional game coming out of the gate. Super Bowl champions, defending Super Bowl champions, obviously, with the Philadelphia Eagles facing big time rival in the Dallas Cowboys. And I think the big talk about this game a lot is going to be how this Dallas defense would have looked if they had Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons obviously got traded to the Green Bay Packers, and now that defense is, I mean, Micah's the type of dude, like, he makes that team 10 times worse when he's not out there. Um, so I think Philly obviously is going to look great. It's going to have, an easier time on offense, knowing that 11's not out there on the defensive side. But I do think that this might end up being a high scoring game. Dallas's offense, I think, is going to look pretty good this year. And that's crazy. I think a lot of people are going to hate me for saying that. And especially, I'm a Washington fan, and I don't want it to be by any means. But their new coach, Brian Scottemeyer, who's been the offensive coordinator last few years, I take a look back to that 2023 year with the Cowboys, that Dak obviously had a great year, and Dak was healthy. If Dak is healthy, he looked great in that 23 offense. He's got CeeDee Lamb, who I believe was second in receiving yards in that season, and then Jake Ferguson, who was top 10 in receiving yards, who's obviously the tight end of this team. And oh, by the way, you add George Pickens into that offense as well. And obviously the running back room, there's no established running back. There's the two running backs, Miles Sanders, Javonte Williams, who are probably going to share a lot of reps and stuff. So I think it's going to be a lot of very pass-heavy stuff when it comes to Dallas. But I do think the passing game and the offense is going to look pretty good for Dallas. The only weakness is going to be that defense. And that's why the Micah Parsons trade hurts you so much. And I could probably sit here and talk for about 15 minutes, probably longer than that, of why that Micah Parsons trade was honestly so dumb, and how even if you were going to trade Micah Parsons, you should have got so much more than what you got, with considering you only got Kenny Clark, who's played football for in the NFL for 10 years now, and then you got 2 first-round picks, which, yeah, great. And then Mike and Jerry comes on and say, oh, we can get potential Pro Bowlers with this. Like, really? Come on. But like I said, I think the offense is going to look good for Dallas. It's just going to be that defense. And obviously, I got the Eagles winning this game. If you didn't see the last episode, that is my number one team when it comes to power rankings right now. So look, and plus I think the game's in Philly, which is obviously going to play a role. So I just don't think that Dallas is. I seriously don't think Dallas is going to be great this year. I do think their offense will keep them afloat, but just that's how big Micah Parsons meant to this team. And it was very simple. All you had to do was pay the man what he was owed. And we would not be sitting here having this conversation about, how's Dallas's defense going to hold up. Now it's just not going to be able to, because you don't have 11 wreaking havoc anymore. Sure, you signed Deron Bland to a great extension. Travion Diggs, we'll see how he plays, if he's able to stay healthy whenever he gets back on the field. But I just don't see a lot coming from Dallas. So if you're a Cowboy fan, expect your offense to be probably fun to watch, but just don't expect anything good from that defense. And I wouldn't be having any high hopes to any sort of playoff seasons coming forward. But Philly fans, I think that you're going to go out there, you're going to get a good win, and you're going to have a nice start going into the season. Friday night, we got the Chiefs versus the Chargers in Brazil, and you can watch this game live on YouTube. That's where it's going to be streaming at. You can watch it for free. So that's a great gift for people who maybe don't have cable, or don't have some of these streaming services, or Red Zone that a lot of these games go on. So you get to watch what's going to probably be a very, very good game between the Chiefs and the Chargers. A lot to look forward to in this game. The Chargers, I think the biggest thing that I'm going to love watching from this game is their running back, the Tar Heel, Marion Hampton. He's a beast. I just drafted him in fantasy. I think he's going to go great. Harbaugh loves to run the football, and Hampton's a little pit bull, man, and he's going to just tear that Kansas City defense up and help that offense out a lot. The Chargers, offensive-wise, for Justin Herbert, Ladd McConkey's entering year 2, had a great rookie year. You get Keenan Allen back in that offense, who sure, is getting older, but I think he's going to have a great veteran presence there, and he can still play great football too. Let's not count him out. quite yet. So I think this Chargers offense is going to look fun. I think the defense, they lost Joey Bosa in the offseason. He's kind of struggling with being healthy and staying on the field a lot last couple years. So I think it's going to be okay. The defense, I think they're going to be able to. I do think that they're going to be able to contain Mahomes pretty good. But looking at the Chiefs side, I just can't bet against Patrick Mahomes. I never can. He's without Rashee Rice for the first 6 weeks of the season with his DUI suspension coming into play. So he's going to be without Rashee Rice, or we're dialing all in on Xavier Worthy and Travis Kelce. Worthy's entering year 2. Had a lot of bright spots last year and a lot to look forward to. I think Worthy is he's going to show a lot of improvement this year, and especially with all this spotlight that he's going to get in the first 6 weeks when this team is without Rashee Rice. This is the time for him to just blossom into a superstar. Obviously he's quick, he's shifty, so I think the Chiefs should be able to use that to their advantage as much as they can. Travis Kelce, sure, is getting older, but man, he can still play ball. He's still a bruiser. He's still a guy that you can rely on at the tight end spot. And I think he's he's still going to play great football. So I think the Chiefs offense is going to be fine. I think the offensive line is a little bit different from how it was last year. We'll see how much that plays into a role for Patrick Mahomes. I think the defense is going to be the bright spot too for this team a lot. I hope that I think that defense is going to play pretty well for them. But we'll see. I think this is going to be a very neck and neck game on Friday night. Man, honestly, you could probably flip a coin for this. But I'm just going to go with the Chiefs just because I can't bet against Patrick Mahomes yet. But I really do hope that the Chargers come in there and establish themselves pretty well as a new look, getting their new look to them. Jim Harbaugh is going to have them guys right. They're going to be hyped. I'm very, very excited to watch this game. Like I said, I think it's going to come down. This is a game that I believe may very well come down to the final play. I can give some score predictions real fast too for both of these games. For the Thursday night game, I'll go 30-27. Philly, or no, actually, I take that back. I'll go 33-27. Like I said, I think the Dallas offense is going to be good, but that Dallas defense is going to probably help. That Philly team is going to run up the points a little bit. Saquon probably heavy game. But like I said, I think that's going to be a high scoring game. I think this game will be, pretty high scoring too. Give me the Chargers, or excuse me, the Chiefs. I'll go 27-24. Like I said, I think it will be like I wouldn't be shocked if it's a Harrison Butker game-winning field goal at the end of the game, or just that, or like he kicks a field goal to take the lead within the last minute. Like game's going to be neck and neck. So hoping for 2 great games for Thursday and Friday, but those are the only 2 games that I'm going to cover. We'll look more into the other games for the episode that comes out on Friday. We'll go probably through all of them, including all Sunday night games, or Sunday games, and the Monday night game as well. But that is going to do it for all that I have. So like I said, quick episode. I hope maybe you guys enjoy this quicker style more, but that's probably typically what these episodes that come out on Wednesday are going to be, is quicker. And once the college football season gets more into a swing, these episodes might start coming out on Tuesdays. We'll see. A lot of stuff still adapting, but I definitely wanted to hop on here and talk about college football stuff because obviously that's going to be a hot topic for right now. And then dive into the Thursday and Friday night games as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and stay tuned for Friday when we're going to take a deep dive into all the other games that are happening this upcoming weekend when it comes to the NFL. And I'll see you guys then. Thank you for listening.